I know we've only known each other for 4 weeks and 3 days, but to me, it seems like 9 weeks and 5 days.
All my garden enthusiasts and passionate plant people. Here we are. It's time for the Let's Get Growing show, the Sunday edition of our Let's Get Growing show, right here on the Urban Gardener channel. I'm Enoch. I'm your host today. We've got a great show for you today. Today is another one of our gardening book clubs. In fact, this is our second book club of the month. And this book club today, we are talking with Dr. Vikram Baliga for our back to school edition of the book club. And we're featuring his book, Plants to the Rescue. So hold on here, and just a little bit later on in the show, we'll have Dr. Vikram Baliga here with us again, to return guest back again to talk all about this really great book that he wrote for kids, talking about all sorts of different plant science and all of that. So we'll dig into that here just a little bit later in the show. So stick around for that. And here in just a few minutes, we'll check out our good friend Paul from Guten Gardening in the Garden. So right on, everybody. Thank you for being here today. And if you can, definitely click that like button, hit the thumbs up, and as well as hit the subscribe button and the bell notification to be notified of all of our upcoming videos and live streams. And definitely share with all of your friends. Let them know about the Let's Get Growing show here each and every Saturday and Sunday at 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern, and that's 7 p.m. for all of you over there in the UK. And also, big, huge shout out to all of you who are joining with us on the replay. Thank you so much for joining with us on your time. Really appreciate having you here with us. And definitely get into our comments section below. Let me know what you got growing on. Let me know you're here. Even if you want to just drop in and say hi, I'd love to hear from every one of you. So definitely get into those comments there. More and more comments. Definitely leave some comments. Those are great ways to interact with the show and help support the show as well, too. Because the more comments and the more likes and thumbs up and all of that we get, those are more interactions that help us get seen more by the YouTube algorithm. So hopefully we can get more folks to come and join with us here on our weekend gardening show. And if you are here with us live, definitely come and join us in the chat as well, too. So jump into the chat there. And if you have any questions or comments, definitely leave those there. And if you have any questions, put those in nice big bold capital letters, too. That way I can see the questions from the comments, and definitely do that. And follow all of the links down below in the description to our guests, and go check them out, and go check out something they've got going on, a post or a video or something, and drop into their comment section as well and help support them and let them know that you saw them here on the Let's Get Growing show. So right on, everybody. Thank you so much for joining with us here today. Let's see who we got in here with us today. I know I saw earlier we had, let's see. Ooh, where was that? Oh my, I got to get on. I got to jump into our comments for sure here. Let's see. Texas Organic TV in nice and early there with us. Saying, I don't know how long I'll last. Must be getting a bit tired there, but excited to see alive. So excellent. It's great to have you here with us for sure. And also, let's welcome our good friend Jay Dixon, our facilitator, to the show as well, too. Keep an eye out for links that Jay leaves in our chat there for different things that we're talking about, and different subjects and all of that. Plus, if you do have a small gardening channel too, jump in the chat and mention that as well too. Jay will drop in a link for your channel so we can give you a nice shout out, and maybe go subscribe and check out what you've got growing on over on your channel. And let's see here. I saw a Wickershire project in there. Awesome. Excellent to have you here with us today. And who else do we got in here with us? I know. Let's see. See Bowtie Life, David in there too. Awesome. Great to see you. Rick joining us from bright and early in the future, actually, as I like to say, from Australia. Thank you, Rick, for joining us and getting up nice and early to check out our show. And then we've got Paul from Guten Gardening in the conversation. Right on. Great to see you. Let's see here. Who else do we got here in the show with us? I see Dusty Flats. Right on, right on. Great to see you here. Also, we've got Shawnee Grows with us, and I'm really excited to see this book. And of course, the guest is amazing to listen and enjoy his humor. So awesome, great. And also, too, we want to also give a big, huge shout out to Shawnee Grows as well. Shawnee reached 1,000 subscribers on her channel this week, so definitely a big, huge shout out to her. And congratulations on your channel reaching 1,000 subscribers. I remember when mine first hit 1,000 subscribers, I couldn't believe when I got to like 200 or 300 subscribers that there were that many people who were going to want to watch and check out what I was growing on in my garden. But to reach 1,000, I remember that was huge. That was really big deal. So I know it's a big deal for you too as well. So congratulations, Shawnee. Really awesome to have you with us here each and every weekend. And our other moderator, Adam, joining us from Central Point, Oregon. He says, I'll be listening while tackling my dreaded blackberries. Oh, yeah, it's time to cut back some blackberries if you got those, especially up here in the Northwest. I know a lot of people around other parts of the country like to grow blackberries and don't have as many problems with them. But they are pretty invasive here in the Pacific Northwest and grow everywhere and just take over. In fact, I've got some blackberries that have been in bush vines or whatever you call them popping up in my alleyway space that we're trying to fix up and everything, as my neighbor put in a new fence that went down pretty deep, but the blackberry got up on my side as well too still, so I got to go out there and get those pulled as well before they get out of hand for sure. Jersey Girl in the conversation, thank you for dropping by and checking out our show today. It's great to have you here with us. And right on, everybody. Today, we're going to just jump right into it. Today, we've got a great In the Garden segment from our friend Paul, Guten Gardening. So let's check out what he's got growing on in the garden.
Hello, Let's Get Growing community. Today, we're going to take a look at the pear tree behind me. And first of all, I want to say thank you to those of you from this community who've been coming over and watching our content at Guten Gardening. We appreciate that very much. So you may have already seen this video, but I hope you enjoy it. I really wanted to share this video as it is a representation of some of the work I get to do with my children. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at this Hosui Asian pear. About 4 years ago, I did a video where I showed this pear tree after some winter damage, and we had to cut some of this pear tree back. Since then, and we're now at about 6 years of growing, we had 4 or 5 total pears come off this tree. But this season, it is loaded down, so I wanted to feature this particular tree, this particular fruit tree in its own video to celebrate the pear. So in this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about this variety, some of the differences maybe between this and say a Bartlett pear, and then we're going to harvest a little bit. I'm going to have my younger gardener in training come out and harvest some with me, and we're going to do a little taste test at the end. Now I have to make something really clear from the beginning. This was, when we purchased it, supposed to be a dwarf variety that got to about 8 to 10 feet tall. So in my previous video 4 years ago, that's what I talked about, this being a good small space pear. Well, the general or standard stock of this should be about 10 to 15 feet tall, which is what I think we got. I think we're closer to 15 feet tall now. And I'm gonna say from that, well, it's not what I thought it was. That being said, I know I could trim this back, I could prune it back and keep it a lot smaller. But what I'm seeing here is where it's at anyway. The size is fine for now. Now, as far as a ripe Hosuiasian pear, what we have, you see this beautiful russeting on here. Well, ever since I learned the term russeting, I've fallen in love with that name, and now that I understand it a little bit better. So you see the russeting, the texture on here, the kind of ivory, creamy bronze. I guess bronze is probably the best way to describe the skin here. The bronzish skin of this. It is sweet, apple shaped. You see the shape much more like an apple than what you think of for a traditional pear. It's really nice and crunchy. It is a decent source of fiber. It is quite hydrating. 85 to 88%, I believe, is what I saw in terms of a percentage of water in here. It is a good source of vitamin C, or at least maybe a little bit higher source of vitamin C than a Bartlett pear. At least that's what our research indicates. And it is a little bit lower in terms of calories than a Bartlett pear. But when I say these are delicious, I had somebody say to me just the other day that they don't like pears, and that this was the most delicious pear that they'd ever had. I don't even know if you can see up in here because of the sun, but we've got a branch up here that is loaded down. I mean, the whole way from the top to the bottom loaded. And I've got my gardener in training, you can see a hand right there, reaching up to help me pick. Now we have to be careful, because when these come down here, I'm gonna help you. I'll actually put the extender on there. When these come down into the basket, they can actually come down so hard that it bruises them a little bit. So hold on real tight. I'm gonna pull this one out of here. We got one of these little, I guess, what's that? Wasps?
Yeah.
That's all right. We got one of those little apple pickers a couple years ago, and it's gonna be super helpful for reaching all the way up there. Wow. All right, so I'm gonna have you help me.
Extender.
Yeah, you want me to put the extender on there?
Yeah.
So now what you're gonna do is you're gonna pull this screw out of here. Yep. And I'm gonna turn just like that. Now we've got the handle, the longer handle. You see how it has to line up to the hole, and then you just push the screw right through the way you found it. Push it on the other side. I think, yeah, we want to keep them the same. Doesn't really matter, I suppose.
Daddy, turn this a little bit. Okay.
You got it. Line it up. Push it the whole way through. We'll just wiggle it a little bit. There we go. All right, and when you put it on here, just tighten it up nice and tight. And this is going to give us plenty. Oh, the other way. Lefty loosey, righty tighty. So we turn it to the right to tighten it. Yep. Twist it on there and get it as tight as you can. Just hand tighten it. There we go. I'm going to lay this out here so people can see what we got. This cost, I think, $15. I bought it a couple years ago, primarily for peaches. All right, here we go. Oh, there we go. Hey, and as we harvest these, the weight comes off the branches. I wonder what kind of relief that is. Sun is in your eyes. Hey, how about you come over to my angle too? If you come over to this side.
Oh, I can see them now.
Yeah, you can see them a little bit better. So reach up there.
I'm gonna get this one.
Yeah, grab yourself a pear and pull. Boom. I tell you what we're gonna do, because I don't like that. As the pears are hitting the bottom, they are getting damaged. We're going to soften the landing for these. All right, so the reason we're getting a little bit of damage here, and you can actually see it right there at the end, the pole sticks up a little bit beyond the basket, so it's hitting that on the edge. So we're gonna soften the blow as these are harvested. We're just gonna put a little cloth down in here. Aw. So these things will feel like they're getting swaddled as they land in here. Let's see if that helps reducing any damage. We don't want any damage, okay? All right, here we go. We're gonna pull one of these down. All right, we gotta go right up, get around it. Hold on, I'll go up a little higher. There we go, get a good pull. There it is. Oh, did you see that?
Is it
Here,
in there?
yeah, it's in there. And it was super gentle. Oh, it's perfectly protected. All right, that's what we're gonna do. So what do you want to harvest? About a dozen or so?
Yeah.
Get right over top of it, pull over, and then down. Yeah, just like that. Yep. Oh, and what you did, it's interesting. A couple of the ones that, you know, again, the tree aborted long ago, ended up falling down. So that's not a problem either. That saves us trying to take those fruits off a little bit later. And we'll get those stacked up. All right.
Did we get it?
Yeah. Oh, is it in here?
Okay.
Still in here? Yeah, it is. All right. Perfect. You see that it's got a bee on the outside? Actually,
Is that a bee?
I think that's a bee on the outside, and I think the bee is. I'm not
Is that
sure.
a bee?
Yeah. Go for it. I'm not sure if that's a bee or not. I guess we'll find out.
Did we get it? No.
No, but oh, it was a bee because you can see the hole. Actually, you might have the bee in the basket. A bee in the basket. Hold on. Oh, I think I just saw the bee fly away. Here, again, when you
I
go.
didn't get it
Hold on.
from
Oh no. All right, here we go.
That's one way to do it.
Yeah, because you can see the little hole in it. Yeah, where the bee was feeding. I guarantee this thing is nice and sweet. This is really interesting. See, there's a bee feeding on that one right there to the right. I see a bee
This
on that
one?
one. Yeah, there's a bee right there. You see the bee?
Oh yeah, hi.
Yeah, the bee is right there.
So do you want to harvest
Let's
it?
get, no, I want to get this one right here.
That one up there.
It's right there. You got it.
I see it.
Yeah, perfect. Bring it. So initially, we had planned to do some potato harvesting today, but as I'm sure you're noticing from the recording of this video, the wind is here. You can hold that, okay? The wind is just crazy today, and I know my sound quality wouldn't be great, so I'm gonna wait for the wind to go down before I try to harvest any more potatoes. I do enjoy getting out here.
Wait, one more.
One more,
because-
yeah, I know, it's kind of hard to stop. We just have to make sure we eat them.
And
But I tell you
they're really good for you.
Yeah, they're
I'm
really
gonna
good
get
for
a
you.
million of them.
No, let's just do one more. They're really good for you, and they last a lot longer in the fridge than a lot of these other pear varieties. Super cool. Now we need to get a container. I got bags over there, but we're gonna try one. You want to eat one together?
Sure.
All right. Let's go ahead and bring a bag so we can gather these up, and then we'll enjoy one together. Let's move over to the shade. You got those? I got this one.
Yeah.
We saw an earwig while we were harvesting grapes.
It's gonna get in my
Not
ear.
my favorite creature. All right, this is one of the ones that fell. So, and any kind of damage, we have a little bit of damage in there. Not from the fall,
I
from
wanna
insects.
Eat this one, Dad.
It doesn't matter. You want that one?
The skin is the more healthy part.
I know, the skin is healthy, but I'm peeling it today.
Make it easier.
Yeah, just to make it easier.
Daddy, can I try peeling my own?
You want to peel your own?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think I'm pretty good with the knife.
I believe it. Pretty good cook too, huh?
Yeah.
All right, hold on. Sorry, I'm peeling this kind of off. It's the worst peel job I've ever done in my life. All right, we got this kind of peeled back now. And you wanted to try your own, or you want to try a piece of mine too?
I want to try my own, and then I can try a little bit of your seed.
All right, let's
sweeter.
see. I'll tell you what. I'm gonna. Here's what we'll do. We'll see whose is sweeter. That's a
I'm
good
gonna
idea.
Win.
You're gonna win. You picked the one off the tree.
Yeah.
All right. Piece number 1.
Oh.
All right, and I'm gonna go for piece number 2.
Wow, this one is really sweet.
Mm.
Really, really sweet.
Oh man, there's like sweetness dripping off of this.
Another.
So the texture with this type of pear is different. I mean, obviously it looks like an apple. I showed this to some of my students, and that was their first guess in many cases, was that it was an apple because it looks more like that. It's the shape is different, but I think some people don't love pears because of the texture, to be honest. The kind of grittiness. This doesn't have the grittiness. This is a little closer in texture to an apple, but so much sweeter. It's so incredibly juicy. I think. You got yours? Is yours sweeter?
Oh man.
I'm sure it was close. I think I could eat these all day. Personally, I like to go at this with a knife. Thank you. Well, my daughter has walked away for a minute, so I'm going to talk about her just a little bit and say once again something I've probably made clear before. I really enjoy having my children with me in the garden. I've got bees chasing me because this. It's hard to talk with my mouth full. I think they're really attracted to this, but It's so nice to have her out here and loving to be outside. I don't know how long that's going to last for a lot of people. I hope that our younger generation coming up really spends as much time as possible outside, learns some of these skills, because I think it's a big difference maker, really big difference maker potentially for, you know, for the future. But I really appreciate her willingness to come out here with me and spend time. And I think that this is something, hopefully, that she'll remember for the rest of her life. Now, in case you're wondering, that's a different pear. I finished the first one. I had another one with some damage. I had to eat that too. Well, thank you so much for watching this month's video. I hope you have a wonderful month, and we'll see you next time.
Hi, my name is Charles Malky, biologist and plant expert with Ivory Organics, where we grow cool plants and author Saving the World with the Home Garden. Ivory Organic 3-in-1 Plant Guard has 7 natural oils that protect your plants, not just from the summer heat as well as winter cold, but also protects your plants from damaging insects and rodents. The oils in the product include castor, cinnamon, clove, garlic, peppermint, rosemary, and spearmint. These oils are natural insect and rodent repellent oils, which are encapsulated by the base powder, offering your plants months of protection at a time. 1 application per year will suffice for protection against damaging summer sunburn and winter sun scald, but if the target is pests, application as much as 2 to 3 times a year may be necessary.
Oh. Gotta remember to bring myself back on, but welcome back everybody to the show. Great, and then thanks to Paul from Guten Gardening for not only showing us about all these great pears, and they're really delicious. I did get to try some those exact pears down at the exposition last year, and they are really, really delicious, as he says. But thanks to him for showing us about all those pears and all of that, but also talking a little bit again too about having our kids in the garden and teaching them about all of these you know, growing skills and all of that too, that we hope again that they can carry on for a lifetime with them too. So again, really great to have you on our In the Garden segment and sharing with us this week. So again, thank you, Paul, for doing that. And if you guys didn't get to check out last week's show, last week we had on with us our good friend Kay Cottrell from Late Bloomer last Saturday. So definitely, if you didn't get a chance to go check that show out, you want to go and check out our last Saturday show. We also got to meet Natalie from the Fresh Princess as well too, and Natalie's got a really, really amazing aeroponics garden and this just really cool grow tent that she has, and she showed us around to all the different things that she has growing on in there too. So if you're ever interested in growing that sort of thing in your house, definitely check out Natalie at the Fresh Princess, especially on our last Saturday show. And also too, last Sunday was the 3rd Sunday of the month, and that's when we got started with our monthly gardening book club, and we had on with us Marcus Bridgewater to talk about his book See Marcus Grow. And what a great conversation with Marcus. If you didn't get a chance to check that out, definitely go back and check out that show last Sunday too. It was just a really fun conversation with him and our good friend Mark. And yeah, what a great book too for to get us started for our back to school monthly gardening book club this month too. So definitely go back and check out those shows if you didn't get a chance to check those out yet. And again, thank you to Marcus for being with us as well as Kate Cottrell and Natalie on Saturday. Right on, everybody. So again, too, having a great show here already. So let's keep this moving along here. It's about time to get started with our monthly gardening book club. So all right, on our monthly gardening book club, we got to welcome our co-host and good friend, Mr. Here we go. Oh, we got Is he on?
Now I'm back in.
Oh my, let's see here. Oh boy, what's going on with this thing?
I think I'm in.
There we
I
are.
can see me.
There we go.
Hey, how are
Yeah,
you?
yeah, good.
Yeah, it's
They,
great
like
to
I
be
said,
here.
they did some changes. I didn't used to have to like switch over to the two screen beforehand when we used to do the show. And I think this is something that changed that we discovered and I didn't get down from last week as well too, is that I actually got to go click that thing now. I need to go send them a note to change that back.
You know what it is, Enoch? It's the man trying to keep you down. It's just always the man trying to keep you down.
Right. No, they keep running changes and doing things, and I think sometimes things get changed to ways that aren't as helpful, and that isn't very helpful. But anyway, it's great to have you back again 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah,
How
we got like a
awesome is
double.
this?
This is the equivalent of a garden book group double header.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was really fun. As I mentioned, we had a great conversation with Marcus last week talking about See Marcus Grow for the younger kids. We wanted to do a back to school, talking about kids books and stuff this year. And that was just a really great conversation last week.
Yeah. And, Paul really brought that to the fore in his segment there, really the special relationship, whether they're kids, our own kids or neighborhood kids, or like in my example, school kids. Even I'm sure Dr. Vikram Baliga is going to talk about being around college kids. Whatever it is, it's like passing the excitement on the deliciousness of the foods and flowers we enjoy, the beauty of the flowers, the techniques. It's kind of cool just seeing him work with his daughter there. It's like, no, twirl it around a little bit, put that in there. It's just like the little stuff, but those are the important things that help kids feel empowered to continue to do this stuff on their own. Then they're off and running and they're doing it.
Yeah, and get to it. I like that scene though too, of just even putting the screw into the picker, right? To make sure that they're involved with all of these different little things, that we might not actually be thinking about in the moment, but it is really kind of important that they're kind of hands-on with some of this stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, gardening's a lot of problem solving and not only working with the plants, but oftentimes working with our tools. A tool will break. You got to know how to fix it. You got to know how to maintain it, sharpen it, all this kind of stuff. Those are all little tricks and techniques that you learn along the way, and you got to learn it from somebody, right?
Yeah, that's right. And so we're learning this week. And again, too, I'm gonna pop this out. We got our Plants to the Rescue book this month too, as well.
Love this book.
This book was just really, really fun, really awesome, and so much just great plant science in here, right?
Yeah. Plus, you just know it's going to be, there's like a riot of images and festive colors. It's going to be exciting right from the start.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. And I've just been really loving going through this and checking out all these different little bits and pieces. It's full of just really great little, I'll kind of open it up a little bit, just kind of little, different subjects and talking about little pieces of that subject. So again, too, a lot of just great plant science, but then also again, too, about how a lot of that those plants, can really be important to kind of environmental things, lots of different issues and all that sort of stuff that plants play such an important role in.
Yeah, oftentimes when I'm wanting to learn about something new, I will go to the children's section of the library, for example, and look for those like younger reader type books, because I think to write one really well, like this one, you have to have a big command of the subject area, but then you have to be able to simplify it enough so that there's very coherent concepts that even a young person or a newbie, and a newbie adult could learn and take in.
Yeah.
And takes a lot of sophistication, I think, to get to that level of simplicity. So this book, I think, succeeds in that regard. It's not, it's a kid's book, but it's not really a kid's book. It's really hitting on the big themes.
Yeah, it definitely does. So let's get right into this. I know we've got our author in the background here. Let's bring him on with us here and talk all about this just really awesome book. Plant to the Rescue, Dr. Vikram Baliga. Let's see if we can't get him in. All right, there we go.
Hey, welcome, Dr. Baliga. How are you?
Great to have you back with us today. Can you hear us all right?
Yeah, I can hear you. You got me?
I gotcha. Perfect.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Again, thanks again too for being here with us. We've had you on the show a couple of times already before, but now we're going to talk right about this just really great book that you wrote here as well too, Plants to the Rescue. You want to tell us a little bit first, just a little bit about yourself real quick, for those who might not have met you yet before, and again too, what went into putting this book together.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me again. It's always a pleasure. Oop, I just dropped my copy.
Oh,
Or my mom's copy, actually.
oh
So
yeah, there you go.
I'm house sitting for my parents at the
All right.
moment, and so
Nice.
I was like, I know she's got a copy around here somewhere, so I had to go
Yeah,
find it.
right.
Uh,
They better
I
have
would have
a
been a
copy,
little,
right?
Right.
yeah, I'd have been a little offended if I couldn't find one, actually.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm Vikram. I am the plant prof on social media,
Yeah.
and I'm a horticulture professor in Texas at Texas Tech University, and had got this opportunity to write this book a couple of years ago. It came out summer of 2023, so right, just two years and change. And actually, it's kind of interesting. The publisher, Neon Squid, does nonfiction kids books. They're a Macmillan imprint, and so they're based out of London. And they reached out to me about it. They had the idea sort of for the book, and actually, it's interesting. They already had the title and had already
Oh,
found an illustrator, and they were like, "We need someone to write it." And so they'd found my podcast and my social media and reached out through that.
Oh wow.
And it was one of those things. It was funny because they sent an email to an email address I don't look at a whole lot, and I missed the first one. And then my editor came back and was like, "Hey, just wanted to follow up on this." I was like, "Oh shoot, like this is important. I should respond to this one." Um, and
I
so
worry about
they
that
had,
all the time too when I'm sending out emails. Do I
well,
got the
and
right
it's like,
one? Are they even looking at this?
yeah, and over time you just accumulate. Like I collect email addresses like stamps.
yeah.
There's just more and more of them.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so they had the first like couple of spreads in the book, sort of had the ideas for it and some other stuff. And what was nice is they said we have the basic idea, but the rest of it's you. Like so, I get to come
Oh,
up with
that's
all the concepts, the topics,
Mm,
um, and then got to work with the illustrator on it. And that's just like I'm not creative in that way
right.
necessarily. So
Yeah.
I had like a picture in my head and I just described it in text. And then he came back with like literally exactly what I saw in my head for all of us. It
wow.
was incredible.
Yeah, yeah. Also, too, big, huge shout out to Brian Lambert, though,
Yeah,
illustrator
yeah.
as well. We got to do our shout outs to those, especially for our kids' books, which I know, Mark, you've mentioned before as well, too. I mean, it's just such a big part of a kid's book, right? Is these images, because that's what really draws them in.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
almost that's what burns in your mind and gives you the after image, right? I can remember those kids' books that I read as a kid myself, and which ones like really stuck in my mind. And so the words are married; they have to be married nicely with the powerful illustrations. And this certainly is. It's fun. It's like almost to a level of Dr. Seuss, right? There's kind of a wackiness to it. There's a color. There's like energy on every page.
And that's what, when I was talking to him, I said, I want something that's like cartoony and whimsical, but
Yeah.
not
Mhm.
necessarily like, I don't know what the right word is, like not silly. Like I didn't want, like I wanted something that was like looked like very high level illustration, really professional illustration, but something that
Mhm.
like anyone of any age could kind of engage with. Because those stories from Dr. Seuss, from some of these other books, like you still go back to them as an adult and you're like, oh no, that's still cool. Like it's still
Yeah.
like it still looks like something I want to look at. And so it was, again, it's so cool being able to picture something in my head and then describe it to someone and then be like, oh yeah, no, I see it. I can do it.
Yeah.
One of my
Yeah.
favorite things about the way the book is illustrated is the character work, like all the people in the book as much as the plants.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
because it's very diverse, right? Like if you look through the whole book, like it's sort of a diverse set of characters.
Mm.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
And I didn't
Absolutely.
I didn't even have to tell him that. Like that was just his, we want to represent the cultures we're talking about. We want to represent the different people and how, as a global, kind of thing,
Hmm.
plants help all of us and nature helps all of us. And so I felt like he just nailed the tone and nailed the.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. I
Brian was
totally
just
agree
a
with it.
pleasure to work with. Such a nice guy.
Is he British or is he American?
No, he's based in Seattle actually,
Oh, Seattle. Okay.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that
and
was coming
so
in the back.
and
Yeah,
and
there he
so
is.
it's interesting how Neon Squid approaches it, because they look for people all over the world to work with and bring in all these, like, a variety of viewpoints. And if you look through sort of their catalog, they've got everything from books about like hospitals and aliens and
Mhm.
space and like all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and I really like how they do what they do.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. The imprint launched maybe in 20 or 21, right kind of at the height of pandemic, and they were like, we
Oh,
Right.
need
really?
kids learning more about the world around them and learning more about nature and science and history and um,
Yeah.
themselves. And it's I have several, actually. I've bought several of the books that they've published. I've got a few friends that are authors for them as well, and I really like what they do. Really, really cool stuff.
That's how
Yeah.
you lose money as an author. You wind up getting associated with this publishing company. You like all their other stuff, and then you spend all your royalties on their books, and you don't make anything, right?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. But I've always, growing up, I always wanted like a big library,
Mm.
and now that I have like grown up money, I feel like I spend most of my money on like books and Lego and like all the stuff that I wanted and loved as a kid.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
that now I'm like,
Yeah.
haha, I can buy it myself.
I
God,
know that's so great.
I identify with that. Since Enoch and I have been on this monthly garden book group thing, my book buying has kind of gone through the roof. I mean, there's just so many excuses now to just go. It's just like, because I live in Portland, where there's Powell's City of Books, which is like the
Oh
biggest
yeah.
bookstore in the U.S. So just going into there is like always a dangerous prospect. I went in for one thing the other day, came out with two, barely could hold myself back from coming out with three, et cetera, et cetera.
I
Yeah, I
love
know how
Powell.
you feel. Yeah, Pals is great. And again, too, Save's issue too is every time I'm looking up or getting ready to purchase one of the books for our book club, I end up again too with the 2, 3 books in my shopping cart for sure, just
There's
that
so
were
much
even
good stuff.
suggested or right there nearby or something like that. But again, too, books. Again, as we're talking about kids and education and all that as well too, I mean, we've got to make sure, not only like as Paul was talking about in the garden segment, that we're involving our kids in our gardens and taking them through that process, but we also got to make sure that they've got these things in their hands as well too, and they're flipping through physical pages of books versus all of the content that kids are absorbing online nowadays, right?
There's something about that. There's something about like, I'm so busy these days. I mostly do audiobooks.
Hmm.
But there's something about the experience. I read like voraciously when I was a kid and through college, and I would catch myself in high school up at 2 in the morning still reading. And there's something about feeling the book and the paper and
Yeah.
that tactile experience that is just incredible.
Yeah.
So Vikram, I'd like to ask you're a college, you work with college age students mostly and probably do a lot of talks for adults. Um, what age, when you were writing this, like what age group were you targeting in your mind, and what shifts did you make from your typical lecture style, or however it is you present material to your typical students? How did you have to make a little bit of a shift?
Yeah, so it's a good question. It's sort of targeted at mid-grade readers. So like second through fifth grade, something like
Yeah.
that. 8 to 12 is kind of our target market for this style of book.
Yeah.
So kids that are still going to enjoy a picture book, and honestly, as an adult, I enjoy a picture book. I've thought about. I talked to my publisher at one point. I'll get back to your question. I chase rabbits, so
That's
you'll have to
right.
bear with me.
That's all
Um,
right.
I talked to my publisher at one point about like, hey, what about like a picture book for adults? And they're like, we
Mm.
love the idea, but they don't do very well. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
But I haven't let that go yet. That's still in here somewhere.
Okay.
That may be one that I self-published down the road somewhere. Uh,
For sure.
but yeah, so you know what's interesting is when I was thinking about what topics do I put in the book. When I started writing it, my son was I'm trying to do math in my head. He had just turned 6 or 7 when I started writing it.
Okay.
And so like I was like, oh, perfect. I have a perfect sounding board. He was a little bit on the young end, but I was like, if I can write this in a way that um, he understands it, then I'm doing it right, you
Yeah.
know? And but the questions that I would get from my students, my college students, are actually what sort of formed some of the topics.
Oh yeah.
So you see the topics in here, and from like questions and conversations we would have in class. So talking about like how do pollinators do in cities? How do new technologies? How could they help us with energy production or lighting or whatever? How can we use plants for different things? So a lot of the ideas actually came from adult learners, because it turns out that I teach mostly freshmen, not all, but mostly. Um, and a lot of them are not science majors. They come from
Mm-hmm.
across the university. I teach like a core science class. And watching them sort of get to engage with nature sometimes really for the first time in like an academic sort of way is super exciting for me. Like it's fun for me.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the ideas and the things that I was like, oh, we talked about. So for example, I'm looking through my uh, uh, table of contents here. Um, we talk about hydroponics in the class a lot,
Yeah.
and hearing them learn about, oh, what do you mean we don't have to have water to or plant soil to grow plants? What do you mean we can do
Mm.
this in space? What do you mean
Mm.
uh, we can make glow in the dark plants through
Right.
breeding and gene editing and stuff? They were excited about it, and I was like, if they think it's cool, I
Yeah.
really bet an 8 to 12-year-old would also think it's cool. And
Mm.
so the way that this book was formed was just little snippets of different things in the plant science and nature world, um, to sort of serve as a springboard for kids to go and find something to go learn more about. Like the book was never intended to teach them everything about anything. It was really just, oh, that's cool. I should do my own research and do my own homework and go to the library and find a book about this or that. And that was the goal.
Well,
Yeah.
true confession, it had that effect on me. It just, in fact, minutes before we got on, I was looking through here, and one of your things talks about fungus in the soil that provide nitrogen. And I'm like, wait a second, doesn't mean bacteria. I think there might be a misprint there. So I went and looking on, like, oh, well, no, looks like fungus is pretty well grounded there. I think he's correct. So I was learning something right before this. It's like, okay, good job.
Yeah. And again, too, similar too, is that lots of stuff I was finding flipping through here that I was just learning and really getting fascinated with too, as well as like what towards the front of the book you talk about in the beating the heat section too about silverleaf nightshade, right? You want to
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah.
I
So
mean, as we're all dealing with droughts and the heat, especially over here in the West Coast, it's really something, we really deal with.
yeah, absolutely. So silverleaf nightshade is in the Solanaceae family, which is the same as tomatoes, peppers, eggplant, a lot of other things.
Mhm.
And it is a native plant to my part of the country.
Yeah.
It is a sort of perennial Solanaceae, or it will sometimes overwinter, I should say. It reseeds pretty readily, but sometimes it'll overwinter for us. And if you look at the fruits, they look like little tomatoes. They're little yellowish berries,
Yeah.
little round fruits. But the flowers are purple, very much like an eggplant. So it's actually a really important pollinator plant. It's a really pretty plant in our native ecosystems, but it's generally thought of as a weed, right? It's an agricultural home landscape, home garden kind of weed because it'll pop up anywhere.
Yeah.
And it is unbelievably heat and drought tolerant. Like
Wow.
Yeah.
it's so tough. We had this little hoop house at our greenhouse and gardens on campus, and it was uncooled. We had a fan in there, but that was almost like a formality, right? Just so we would feel better about the air moving. But you'd still walk in, and it was 150 degrees in there in the
Woo.
summer.
Oh my
Uh, and we hadn't done anything with it. We hadn't watered, and I walked in, I put a thermometer in there, and it was 152 degrees one day. And I'm looking
Wow.
around in this little high tunnel, and the silverleaf nightshade is flowering and fruiting and perfectly happy. Like it's fine. Perfectly happy.
Wow.
I hadn't watered it in weeks. Like it had gotten a
Yeah.
little rain, but it was brutally hot, brutally sunny, and it just doesn't care. It just absolutely doesn't care. And
Wow.
so I started looking into it more, and it's closely enough related. It is Solanum elagnifolium, and so it's closely enough related to some other plants in that genus that we can actually cross it. We can take genes and traits from this and
Mm.
cross it with other plants in the same genus.
Wow.
And so one of the things about a lot of nightshades, a lot of solanums, is that they're toxic, right? That's one of the
Mm.
reasons they call them nightshades. So belladonna, deadly nightshade, some of the others, like they're in the same family. Um, so you have to be careful when you do some of this breeding work that you're not just making poisonous eggplants.
Yeah.
Has happened. Uh, but now with new technologies, we can get a lot more specific with some of those traits we're trying to transfer. And they're trying to back cross some of this heat tolerance and some of this drought tolerance into our food crops in this family to make them more resilient for hotter
Yeah.
summers, for
Mm.
drier climates.
Mhm.
So as the climate changes, it's like, oh, we can keep growing these things in more places or extend the range of some of these foods. Because, with tomatoes, for example,
Oh
when you
yeah.
get daytime temperatures like in the 90s and nighttime temperatures up in the 70s, which happens in, June in my part of the world,
Yep.
they kind of shut down
Mm.
Mhm.
and they don't do anything till it cools off in the fall. And so if we can breed more heat tolerance in them, we can actually um, get more resilient crops that'll grow in more places, grow under more adverse conditions. And
Yeah, I
there's a
know.
lot we can do with science.
Yeah, yeah, I know for sure, that's just one of my bigger struggles are the tomatoes. When we start getting up in the heat, and boy, our heat and our summer just kind of kicks in before we even get a chance to get really midway through our spring around here. So as we're trying to get these plants started and going, the heat starts kicking in, and by the time they're mature enough to really start producing flowers and all of that, it's so warm that flowers are just dropping right off, or
Mm.
they're not producing as well. And so it's been kind of a struggle over the last few seasons to find varieties that are more heat tolerant. And especially I found it's more of the our larger tomatoes that we're
Hmm.
trying to grow. My cherries
Mm.
will grow like crazy all over the garden. It
Yeah.
seems like no problem. But I want to grow some of these big fat tomatoes, and the heat really just gets in the way of that. So it'd be really interesting to see this sort of science be able to advance some of these larger sized tomatoes to be able to grow in these places that are just getting warmer and warmer.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting because we use like some of the tricks nature already has, and some of these
Mhm.
like tools and traits that we can do a lot. I think what we're really trying to do is help plants along, right? Eventually, you give them
Yeah.
enough time, they'll figure it out.
Mm.
Plants are nothing if not incredibly adaptable. Um,
Yeah.
but we're like some of the things they're faced with, some of the temperature changes, some of the rainfall changes are happening faster than they can adapt right now.
Mm.
And so what we're seeing in a lot of our crops, in a lot of our native plants even, is that the ranges are changing. Things that we could grow, um, in one place, we really can't anymore, or not very effectively. And so we're having to push them farther north. We're having to push them into different climates with different soils and different things like that. And so there are so many environmental things that are putting stress on our food supply that we're sort of at a point where we're trying to help them along, um, for our benefit as a
Yeah.
as a species as much as anything else. Because when the food supplies start dropping, things get real tough, and we've seen that a lot over the past few years,
Mhm.
for a lot of reasons. And so uh, it's like we use the science that we understand and the science that we know to do the best we can, but we're really taking our cues from what plants are doing naturally, and just figuring out new ways to approach it.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's go with that food thing for a little bit because I noticed, you got one historical character, and besides yourself, who's historically accurate, there's Dr. Norman Borlaug, right?
Hmm.
The so-called, or not so-called, the kind of innovator behind the Green Revolution and the breeding and the wheat breeding programs. Um, Down at the bottom of that page, filling our plates. Yeah, there he is. He's doing his work. He's breeding, and the new and improved wheat. And then we got, not everyone's a fan around the GMO section, which I'm glad you kind of brought that in to sort of say maybe there's a limit to some of this stuff. Some people would even go back to the Green Revolution and say maybe that was overdoing it though, because in addition to feeding so many people, we also brought these regimes of chemical fertilizer and pesticides that go along with it. So it seems
Mhm.
like there's this real interesting, like, razor's edge we walk in science as we tinker with systems. We can tinker with individual plants and maybe
Yeah.
breed in something cool, but we often don't understand the overall implications. So tell me about that and how where you were giving the nod to that in the book.
So I think that it's important, and one of the things that we talked about as we were developing this book is that we didn't want to shy away from some of the big topics, because
Yeah.
kids are going to hear it, kids are going to be faced with it. They already are faced with it. Like, they hear the
Mhm.
conversations, they hear the things going on, they hear the things that their parents and the news and everything else is saying, and we didn't want to be like, oh, we need to protect them from it. We need to educate about some of these things. So with
Yeah.
some of this like discourse around breeding and genetic modification and all this, there's sort of two sides to it. Um, and I'll preface this by saying, like, I'm not a plant breeder, I'm not a geneticist, so some of this
Mhm.
is stuff that I have to constantly read about and learn more about, because it's not exactly my field. Um, but there's always a concern, I think, when we're trying new things, right?
Mm.
When we're figuring things out, that there's sort of this law of unintended consequences. Sometimes we don't know what we don't know. And sometimes, and we've seen this in the evolution of ag technology throughout the years, throughout our history, is that sometimes we try things and maybe it's not, the unintended consequences sometimes are better or are worse than the benefits in some
Mm.
cases. And we
Yeah.
have to work through that to get to where we're doing a net good.
Yeah.
And so I think when people look at these new technologies and they say, "What do you mean you're fiddling with the genetics? You're, inserting genes from different things into different things?" There's, uh, I think, a natural, maybe aversion to that. Um, call it
Yeah.
call it what you want. Call it playing God. Call it playing whatever else. When the truth is, we have been adjusting plants or domesticating plants towards our desires for thousands of years.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yes.
and they've been doing it back to us at the same amount of time. Like, there's a,
Yeah.
there's a train of thought out there that, as we domesticated wheat and different plants, they sort of domesticated us back, because we went from like a nomadic lifestyle to, oh no, we're going to sit here and tend to these plants. Um,
Yeah.
I use the analogy with my students when we talk about this, that, like, you know, you train your dog to, like, ring a bell when they want to go
Mhm.
outside or
Right.
when they want to be fed. And it's like, oh, I have trained this dog. But then every time the dog rings the bell, you get up off the couch and go do what they want. So are you training the dog, or are they training you back? Like, who domesticated who in this relationship? And I think the truth is that, like, neither, both, all of it,
Yeah.
right? Like, when we exert a pressure, a training pressure, a domestication pressure, an evolutionary pressure on a plant or an organism, like, none of it happens in a vacuum, right? Like there's a give and take, and if we're reliant on these organisms and they're reliant on us, we have this co-relationship with them. And so
Mm.
Mm.
when we think about using the things we know, using our science and our technology to speed the process along, um, like, there's going to be some tension. There's always going to be some tension in the ways that people think about it, in the uh, ways that it progresses. And so we have to be careful anytime we're messing with new technology. Um, which is why when we talk about sustainability, I think, and whether that's sustainable, um, like sustainability in terms of, I don't know, food production, whether it's sustainability in terms of resource use or breeding work or whatever it is we're doing, I think we have to look at it as a whole picture, right? We talk about
Mm,
how there's like three pillars of sustainability: economic, social, and environmental.
Hmm.
And they overlap in a Venn diagram, and the goal is to get as close to the center of that as possible. Um, but everything we do pulls us in one of those directions, right? We try to make a product cheaper. Well, maybe we
Yep.
do that at the detriment of the environment.
Yeah.
We try to make something more environmentally sustainable, but it costs a lot of money. We try
mm,
to make sure that um, things are socially sustainable. We want to make sure people have access to these new technologies and foods, but again, there's an economic cost, and so everything we do pulls us in
Yeah.
a different direction in this Venn diagram. And our goal through breeding work, our goal through um, figuring out new ways to grow plants, new
Hmm.
technologies, more nutrient dense things, should be to try to get as close to the center of that little bullseye as
mm.
possible. Um, and
Yeah.
to do, in my mind, do the most good we can and do the least harm possible in the process. I have a friend who's a plant breeder by trade. He actually roasts coffee now.
Huh.
He
Nice.
has a yeah, he has a PhD in plant breeding. He's worked for years as a you know, I think he was a corn breeder for a while and has done different things. He still consults. And later in life, he found his passion in roasting coffee. But he
Yeah.
kind of he brings his plant breeding knowledge into that. So like he was in South America recently, um, like actually meeting with the growers and the farmers that he buys from and talking to them about how maybe uh, we make the coffee industry more sustainable in the future.
Mm,
Yeah.
Um, but he always talks about like our goal should be defaulting towards life.
mm,
Hmm.
And that was what he kept in his mind as he did his work. It's like, how do I do this to make life better? Not just for people, but for the environment, for the other organisms, the other creatures that share the planet with us. And so, when I think through our pursuit of science, I always think about that a lot. Like that pops into my head a lot. Is like, how
Yeah.
do we do this? But how do we do it in a way that defaults towards life? And
Yeah.
that's, I think, a really powerful way to think about it.
Yeah.
I
Make
like
sure
that
that our
as a mantra. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure, of course, there's a lot of money and certain discoveries and all that sort of stuff that drives a lot of things though too. But I like to think that in some of these things that, scientists who get into this sort of stuff to begin with grow from a fascination of life and of these sort of things, and that their intentions, really are in, trying to better things in a way too. But you can't discount some of the other negative factors and everything, and again, there's definitely a give and take to everything, as you mentioned, and everything. I did want to mention though too, I love the analogy about the dog, because it reminded me of my own cat. I have a cat, and George, he will always come up to me and he'll lick his lips when he wants a little snack. He's got these little snack
Mhm.
treats or whatever. So he'll come up to me and he'll lick his lips and look at me like licking his lips. And he knows that's the cue that I'm going to go, okay, you want a snack or whatever, right? I just got to watch out because he'll try licking his lips at me all day long. So, but yeah, it's great. It's good. Again, too, about the idea of science and everything too, in teaching kids. I was mentioning to Mark earlier too, is that, there's a lot of these things in here that are really kind of futuristic in a way too,
Mhm.
in some senses. So I'm thinking, that kids reading this book today, who are learning from this book today, might even be those scientists down the road that are actually making some of those discoveries you're just mentioning, or ideas in this book.
And I hope so. I think part of my job as an educator, I teach college students, but I have a kid, and we do elementary school tours. I go and speak. I think my job as an educator is one to be as honest with the information I'm presenting as possible, to the best of my ability. And I think as educators, we all fall short of this sometimes. Um, to give the most updated, correct,
Mm.
factual information, but to present it in a way that is digestible, um, that people can sort of hold on to and take what matters out of it, take what's good out
Yeah.
of it. But then also to leave room for people to ask questions and leave room for people to explore ideas. I think,
Yeah.
as educators, if we are honest, if we are, again, try to be as scientifically, historically, whatever, really factual as possible. Like that's our job. Um, but to give people the latitude to think through problems, to critically
Mm.
think about it. Whether kids, whether adults, like they have the entire like access to the entire collection of human knowledge in their pocket
Yeah.
today. Like they can. I have students that will Google things as I'm talking during class sometimes and be like, one, sometimes it's just to be contrary, and that's okay too. Like it's fun sometimes.
Yeah.
No, but sometimes it's to try to get a deeper understanding of what we're talking about, and I'm all for that. I tell my students like, you are well, like please disagree with me. Like
Hmm.
if you hear something, you're like that doesn't sound right. Like that's okay, as
Yeah.
long as you do the legwork to back it up, right? Like I am happy to talk about why something is the way it is, as long as you're not just coming at me from a standpoint of, well, I don't like that,
Yeah.
so I'm going to disagree with it. Like if you have a reason, like if you do the homework, if you figure out like why you disagree with me, I am happy. Like I'm wrong a lot. I try not to be, but I'm wrong a lot.
Uh,
And sometimes students will be like, "Hey, I read a thing the other day that, um, they've come out with like or they've learned something new about this topic we're talking about. And the way that you said it was maybe the old understanding." And I said, "Oh, you know what? I hadn't realized that." So I had to go and do my own homework and figure it out and realize that yeah, they'd updated some knowledge about something based on new discoveries. And so that student and I were able to say, you know what, you were right. Like I was outdated in the way I was thinking about this, and that's good for me. That's good for them, and we get to do this learning thing in a collaborative sort of way. And so like if we collaborate with kids, if we collaborate with adults, like we're helping people think critically about information and maybe be that next generation of scientists that one chases the science, but two does it in a way um, that keeps uh, life at the forefront, that keeps
Yeah.
making people and the planet better at the forefront of our discovery. Because when we're missing one of those things, like bad stuff happens.
Hmm.
yeah. One of the things I really like about the book, where Enoch mentioned the word futuristic, and there's certainly some of that, like robots taking care of crops or plants that glow in the dark or all this kind of thing. And that typically would be kind of a stereotype you could fall into with science, right? In terms of scientific thinking, it's very lab based, it's very technological. Um, but many things you put in the book are just good gardening sense. I mean, there's a section on permaculture. There's urban design. I'm a rooftop gardener, so that was like lit up for me. It's like, oh, cool. Rooftops and community gardens are mentioned in here.
Hmm.
There's native and traditional perspectives, like the Indian bridges that are woven from roots. It's not like, oh, we got to go back and re-engineer these trees. It's like, no, this partnership has already been established. People have been observing and using nature in interesting ways. Sometimes it just has to be recovered. It doesn't have to be newly discovered. It has to be recovered, right? It's already been
Mhm.
part of the. So I thought there was a lot of balance in that. I don't know if you want to say anything to that, but
Yeah, I think there's there's so much that we've learned and forgotten through time.
mm,
I
yeah.
think as society, for a lot of reasons that maybe that we don't, have the rest of the afternoon to go through. But like there's some like social, societal um, reasons that like there's so much knowledge and there's so many things that we have understood and forgotten through time. And so you go and you look at some of these indigenous communities around the world, and you see that, um, like even though way that they approached it is not the way we would approach scientific discovery today. Like these scientists throughout time have figured out how to do stuff. And
Yeah.
there's something to be said that like there are things that we see that work, and then we figure out how. Instead
Mm,
of like
mm.
we have to have a concept and build and bend things to our will because we have an idea. We can take ideas from things that already are. You know, that's this whole idea of like biomimicry. Like we want to build an airplane. Okay, well the birds have done it. Like the birds have figured it out.
Uh-huh.
And so we base
Right.
wing design over the airfoil design of a bird's wing, right? Um, we're building solar panels now when plants have been doing it since the chloroplast evolved, right? Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
harvesting sunlight and storing it as a chemical energy source. That's all a solar panel does, right? It harvests photons from the sun and stores it in a chemical battery or a solid state battery or whatever. When plants do the same thing, they harvest sunlight and they use carbon dioxide and they store that as a chemical energy source as a starch that can be metabolized later. It's the same process.
Mm.
The players just change, the technology just changes. So we can look at living bridges. We can look at breeding work that's been done for thousands of years and apply it in new ways, apply it in new systems, have greener cities, have more, you know, environmentally friendly societies. You know, something that I talk about a little bit in here is, let me see, let me find what chapter it is. You know, it's funny because I've written this book. I should know where things in it are, and like I still have to like go back to the table of contents every time. So when we talk in here about like building things out of wood, right? Wood
Mm.
is one of our oldest construction materials. It's plant-based, right? We take trees, we make lumber, we build houses, whatever.
Mm.
And then we've gotten away from that because, you know, we don't want to completely deforest our world, and we still use wood. Like we use plenty of wood. But like if you look in major cities, they're concrete and steel now,
Yeah.
which are petroleum products. Whether, you know, depending on how we think about it, we use a lot of petroleum to process those things. There's petroleum in them. When things like cross-laminated timbers and where essentially they're taking dimensional lumber or big boards and laminating them crossways like plywood,
Yeah.
and then making construction timbers out of that, you know, it has the fire resistance and structural strength of steel. It can flex and turn in the wind.
Mm.
And you think about that wood is made from carbon out of the atmosphere that the trees turn
Mm-hmm.
into wood. So we take those things, we lock them up into our buildings, and we're directly removing carbon from the atmosphere by doing some of these things. So like I heard a guy talk about this, that cross-laminated timbers and like smart ecologically minded forestry can absolutely save the world. We just have
Right.
to be smart and think of the whole system as we do it. So, you know, we don't know what the next big idea is going to be, but
Yeah.
we can use old ideas and retool them a little bit and make them new and make them more friendly to people and environment. And I think that's, for me, the way that I think about research, the way that I think about teaching and education. Gosh, what's better than that? Like,
Right.
Yeah.
what could be a like more important goal than that?
Yeah. For
Mm.
sure. Yeah, definitely. Let's see here. I'm going to jump in. I'm going to get a question in here. David asked a little bit earlier. He says, what has been the most surprising feedback you've received from kids,
Real.
parents, or teachers?
So this is gonna sound weird, maybe. I don't know if it will or not, but how much like replay value this book apparently has.
Mm.
Uh,
Well, yeah.
like I've had friends and just people on the internet say that like they have kids that want to read this every night, like as a
Great.
bedtime book.
Wow.
And
Oh,
I'm
that's awesome.
like I have a friend that's told me that they've read the whole thing probably in the 2 years it's come out like 100 times. And I'm like,
Really?
Yeah, no, and like, because like I love this book. I believed in this book. Like, there's a reason I wrote it. But I don't know. I always think about the fact that a nonfiction book about plants
Mm,
is
Mm,
like a repeat bedtime story uh is kind of
yeah.
wild to me. Like, but I've gotten
yeah.
that feedback a number of times. And I guess that means I did something right, like that we did something right in making this. Uh, but that's been one of the more surprising pieces of feedback. Um,
Wow.
Yeah.
and
That's
I got a
really
picture.
high praise.
Yeah, it really kind of makes sense though too, as I could see myself rereading some things or even coming back to check out certain things as well too. And Mark, you did a post about our book club, and I commented about how how really great it is for kids and all of that. And Mark was like, "Yeah, even for adults though too, because I'm just really enjoying this as well, huh?"
It's kind of it's like I think of it as like a kind of a hummingbird touchdown checklist of things you could be doing to move towards sustainability. Like I can just open any one of these pages and in a second or two read a little blurb that just kind of orients me towards some possible avenue of either being
Mm,
personally productive or just being more aware of something. I think that's one of the strengths. It's not a big thick book that I'm going to be intimidated about and be like, oh, I'll do that when I have the time, and the time never comes. This is one of these things like you glance and you get it. You get everything, something from a glance, which is amazing.
Yeah, yeah, and I agree. Like, high praise for sure. Like, that's the best thing I think I could have hoped for, uh,
Yeah,
mhm.
bedtime
coming out of
book.
this.
Yeah, again too, and I get like it also kind of got me on a little path too, as I was, looking into, you're talking about, of course, the hydroponics, aeroponics, and that kind of leads into kind of growing plants in space, which has been something that has really fascinated me for, for quite a while now, is, how we gonna, turn what we learn through plant science and how we're growing things into growing food for future space exploration, any sort of space mission out there, or any sort of colonization, or any sort of thing that we might dream about as far as a future or anything, is going to have to involve food. And then
Hmm.
there's a lot of science. In fact, we kind of touched on that with the Fresh Princess a little bit last week, on because she does some aeroponic gardening and all of that as well too. So it's a lot of this sort of stuff and discoveries and things through that sort of thing that we can do ourselves at home, and these different things that eventually will lead to some of that science that we'll use again in the future, right? This idea of space exploration. I was looking at one too, and it led me to, again, more research myself. So I'm reading about this, and then I'm going in and I'm looking about it and everything, and was learning about, they had a chili pepper project on the International Space Station and everything, where they were
Mm.
growing out of the what is it, the advanced plant habitat that they have up there. And the astronauts up there grew, I believe they said, 20 some actual chili pods up in space, and had their own little taco night on the International
Very cool.
Space Station, eating these chili peppers, and some of
Yeah,
the
that's pretty
astronauts
cool.
thought it was a little hot and all that stuff. But again, too, just really kind of fun, where, again, too, where just a little bit of, information, again, through some of these different ideas, can lead us into some of these other bigger things.
For sure, for sure. And I think, yeah, that's super cool. And thinking about like growing plants in space and growing plants in different places, I really enjoyed the book The Martian,
Yeah,
because it's like,
Oh yeah.
how often are botanists cool? Like,
right.
how
Right.
often, like, in a movie, is like the main character a botanist growing potatoes? But I think like there's something in that. The book was great. Like, I love the movie and the book, and Matt Damon's
Yeah.
fine, good,
Mm.
whatever. Uh, but like,
Yeah.
that idea of
Mhm.
it's a sort of an adventure movie, an action movie, but it's not him fighting monsters, it's him solving a problem.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
what's more human than that? Than, like, we're creative in our problem solving. We come up with outlandish ideas, and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. But that whole movie is about problem solving, and
Right.
it was wildly popular. And like, it shouldn't have, like, from a, we have all these superhero movies and all this stuff coming out, and like, it was so exciting to watch him grow potatoes. And
Yeah.
it's just like something about that was very validating.
Yeah, I love that. It's actually one of my favorite films because of that aspect of it all, is that again, that's survival. In order to make the time that he needed there, it was going to require growing food or making, gaining his nutrition in some sort of fashion, right?
Of
Mhm.
course,
Just so fascinating.
every kid that I work with who's seen that movie knows it's growing potatoes in your own poop too. Of
Yeah.
course,
Yep.
that's always
There's
going to be
that.
brought in,
Right.
which actually makes a lot of sense. People are saying like, what, we're an advanced society and we flush our waste down in our drinking water supply. That doesn't make any sense. So sometimes when you really get back to it, it's like, well, yeah, that does actually. We should be recycling our own waste into soil, but that's a whole other topic.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing.
Right. Let's see here. I got another question in here. Let's get this one here. Fresh Princess asks, what is your favorite plant? Do you have a favorite plant that you've studied and taught about?
This is a hard question, because there's so much cool stuff out there.
They're all my
So,
favorite.
well, either that or I studied them so much that I kind of hate them now.
Oh,
Like, if you're doing research right, at the end of the day, it's like, I don't want to look at you anymore. Like, I'm done with. So I studied olives for my master's degree, and I was so tired of olives. Like, I'm never like using olive oil again. I'm never eating another
Oh my
olive.
God.
It didn't last that long.
Okay.
But there was like 6 months there after I graduated that I was like, I don't want to think about this. I have
right.
like dealt with these like all day, every day for 2.5 years. Like, I'm done. Um, uh, so my favorite plant, when people ask me this question, I think that the answer I come back to is the bristlecone pine.
Ooh.
And so this
nice.
is a tree that grows in several places. You can find it in Colorado. Most of them are in the Great Basin, Western Nevada, Utah, Eastern California. It's a sort of a high elevation pine. And the oldest one that we know of is just shy of 5,000 years old. They named
wow.
it when they start
Yeah.
naming trees. It's named Methuselah, like the old guy in the Bible, right?
Yeah.
When they start naming trees, there's like probably something special about it, like giving them people
Yeah.
names. Like, this one's Doug. I don't know. Uh, but they live for thousands of years, right? The oldest one we know of, the oldest single organism we know of, we're just 4,800 years old. And I think about that, and like, this tree was germinating when we were figuring out how to do written language as a species.
Mhm.
Like, the stories, like the civilizations that have risen and fallen
Yeah.
since Methuselah germinated. And like, the history of it, our environment and our planet that it holds in its rings, right? You
Mhm.
can look at tree rings and see this was a wet year because like how thick that ring is, right? Like, it grew more. You can kind of make some inferences about how much carbon was in the atmosphere. You can tell when there were wildfires because that damage is kind of written in the biological record of that tree. And what we've seen, like, if you've driven through parts of Colorado in the past, call it 20 years, you'll notice a lot of dead pine trees out there. And one of the reasons is the pine bark beetle. So
Right.
as the glaciers descended during the last ice age, they forced this pine bark beetle east and south into warmer climates. So you see it, like, evidence of it in like some of the pine forests in Georgia, southeastern US. Like, there's big pine forests out there. But then over time, it's sort of moved its way back out west into its original range, we think. Some of this is we have to kind of figure out. And now with some of this warming process accelerating, we're seeing it moving faster and faster into some of its native ranges. And some of these short-lived pines, the slash pine, even some of the ponderosas and things that are throughout Colorado, have sort of drifted away from some of the natural defenses they had for this pest. because they live a couple hundred years, and in 25 or 30,000 years, that's a lot of generations. Right?
Mm.
But these bristlecone pines, we're what, 5 generations deep since the end of the last ice age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They still remember the pine bark beetle. And so, whereas it's having devastating effects on short-lived limber or short-lived pine forests, we see very little damage on some of these longleaf pines, on our bristlecones, on a few of the others, because they
Yeah.
still have that like genetic memory. They still have the chemical
Mhm.
defenses and different things that protected them from that.
Yeah.
They twist when they grow. They have really dense bark and really dense wood grain compared to some of the shorter lived ones.
Mm.
And so I think there's just a lot we can learn from some of these old plants, which is why protecting some of these old growth ancient forests is so important.
Hmm.
Not just for one, because they have like intrinsic value, but two, because of what they can teach us about our history and our planet. And I don't
Yeah.
know. I've always found that incredibly fascinating.
Yeah, me too. I mean, like again, I have a picture on the side of my fridge from a National Geographic of the president, a sequoia down in California,
Mm.
and then there's what the General Sherman. Just again, too,
Hmm.
just the age and the history of these sort of trees and everything. It's just amazing to think about, what was going on throughout history as these trees were just growing and living and all of that sort of stuff. Well, you're saying that also made me think about what is it? American chestnut,
Mm.
Hmm.
right? Is that, again, too, these trees are spending thousands of years developing resistances through relationships with what their predators are, or the bugs that can take them down, or the other bacteria,
Hmm.
whatever it is, you know what I mean, that can really take them down. And I was listening to someone talking about the American chestnut and how we brought chestnut over from Asia, and it brought over whatever it was, which uh, those ones over there are just fine with. Again, like you said, they've spent
Mm.
thousands of years with this relationship to build up resilience, but then you bring them over here to America, and now all of our American chestnuts are basically going extinct, or dying out, and they're having a hard time trying to keep them alive and keep those genetics alive, because they just don't have that relationship, and that genetic relationship with these sort of things. It's just crazy to think about.
Yeah, and American chestnut used to be some 30% of the canopy cover throughout Appalachia, Blue
Hmm.
Ridge Mountains, up into places like Pennsylvania, parts of the Midwest. Like it was a heavy part of that forest, and
Hmm.
chestnut blight all but wiped them out. Yeah. And
Mm.
they were a major, like one of the major food sources for thousands of years for the indigenous cultures through there, of
Yeah.
those mountains. And some of the work at, yeah, breeding work to bring back the American chestnut is so cool. There's
Yeah.
some people that have really developed it. They're trying to reintroduce it in parts of um, sort of the central eastern U.S. And they're
Yeah.
actually having some success. They found that they've been able to work resistance into it and all of that, and that's just the
Hmm.
coolest thing. Like,
Yeah, and it,
it,
and it totally brings us back to the idea of the science, and again too, and emphasizing, also teaching our young kids about science, about the importance of plants, and what, and that sort of thing, because it's going to be those young kids that are going to develop and work on those sort of projects that are going to save some of our trees and some of our other environmental issues.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, that little, the phone you held up that has all the knowledge of the world, it it's tantalizing, but at the same time, without these real tactile things to ground us, like plants, like being in a garden, like this kind of stuff, cooking and eating good meals with plants and good food, that's the kind of stuff that is also a knowledge that will save us too. And
No, for
the phone
sure.
becomes more and more the portal that kids, especially, but adults also are drawn into. And even having a book like this it's awesome. I mean, they could get all the knowledge off the internet, but you need a point of departure, right? So this becomes like a jumping off point where you can then go and look for more, but you have selected it, you have organized it, you've given it your unique spin based on all your experience with the plant world, your own horticulture with students, and that's what I think how this book really succeeds. It's a great jumping off point, as you say, for further knowledge, but you need the jumping off point. Because otherwise, if you just throw yourself out into the vastness of all the info, it's so easy to get lost in everything, in garbage, in conspiracy, and all kinds of stuff, right?
Well, and I tell my students all the time, like, what this won't teach you is context, right?
Yeah.
Like you can Google whatever you want, but it's really like I think we've seen this. I see it. I spend an offensive amount of time on social media, but like we've lost our ability to contextualize things, to critically think about
Yeah.
things. And I tell people all the time, like the plants don't read our textbooks. They don't know what your Google search says. And so we find so many interesting things. You go outside and you're looking at your garden and you're like, this plant shouldn't be doing as well as it is. Or this plant is doing way worse than it should be, right? It should be doing better. And then you have to start trying to figure out why. And you look at your
Mm.
environment and you learn how everything is connected and how, again, none of this exists in a vacuum. And so, knowledge, information is just that. It's just knowledge and information. What it doesn't teach us is application and context and wisdom. And
Mm.
so, there is a great wisdom that comes through nature because
Yeah.
it forces us to try to look at the big picture and see how these pieces fit together and how the bits and pieces of information we've learned and we've taught and we have written in our books um, is just part of the puzzle. And so I think that's something that, again, I hope that every kid that reads this book is like, I want to grow a tomato. I want to go and see some of these old trees. I want to read another book about something and just start building this big picture of what the
Mm.
world is and what it looks about like and how we fit into nature because we're part of it, right? Like
Yeah.
it's us and we are
Right.
in a we are parts of our ecosystems. We're not outside of our ecosystems, and if we get to learn about how those ecosystems work, then maybe we find our place in it better too.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah, definitely emphasizes the importance of learning about this sort of stuff. And you're out there teaching at Texas Tech. Again, I've got a question here from David. Says at Texas Tech, you wear several hats: professor, assistant dean, researcher. What role energizes you the most?
I think, and this is going to sound like a cop out, and I don't mean it to be, but all of them. I think one of the reasons I take so many different roles, and I have sort of maybe bought so many hats or given myself so many hats,
Yeah.
so to speak, is that I like the diversity of it. I like being able to do a little bit of a lot of things. But if I had to pick one, it would be teaching, right? Like I think
Yeah,
I am the most excited about being in the classroom, even
Mm.
days that I'm like, oh, I really don't want to go do this today. I'm
yeah,
tired, I'm exhausted. I don't like want to go talk to 160 people for an hour. By the end of it, like I'm excited
yeah,
again. And so,
yeah,
like I think again, if I had to pick one, it would be professor. Um,
yeah. And maybe
but
you could we can include this question, the next one he had there too, and it says, "How has your teaching evolved over the years, especially in connecting with today's students?"
Mm.
gosh, I just had a conversation with a friend about this on Friday. Um, I have always felt like education needs to go, and it's hard to say this because as someone who teaches at a university, but like education needs to be where people need it and how people need it.
Hmm.
And
Mm.
so there's a lot made of today's student, you know, today's
Yeah,
learner. And what I have found is that people are people. And the things that we need, the things we learn about, the way we learn, just like we were talking about earlier, like the old things still work, the players and the technologies is different. And so what I have found is that the way I have to present information sometimes is a little different. It's hard for me to expect students that um, are building knowledge and worldview through 60 to 90-second clips to listen to me talk at them nonstop for an hour and 20 minutes, right?
Mm.
That's a big ask, because through
Yeah.
high school, through being stuck at home for a few years, and their educational experience being different, like that's not how they've been taught to learn. And so
Yeah.
I have to think about how do I break up a class in a way that, like, we lecture for a while and then we have a conversation. How do I encapsulate things into smaller, more bite-sized pieces? um, but what I have found is that students today are no less curious than they have been in
Mm.
the past. I've found that they are no less passionate about the material they're learning. Um, it's never been every student, right? When I was in college, when my parents were in college, it was never every student that was passionate about what they were doing, but the ones that are still are. I think we just have to think about, as educators, how do we meet the needs? How do we meet the social sort of socialization of our students? How do we find them where they are and present information in a way that they can digest it? And that's not an appeal to dumbing down information. I think we still give it the same punch it always has. I think we just have to think about, how do we present it in a way
Mm.
that makes sense to today's learner. My job as an educator is to educate. And if
Yeah.
I'm saying, well, you should be learning in the way that I learned 20 years ago, I'm not doing my job. Um,
Yeah.
what other, like it, I use this analogy. What other industry could we do where people pay for a product and we're just like, well, I'm going to give you an old product. It's like you go out and you buy a car today,
Yeah.
and it does all the things a car does, right? You get into it, it drives around, it's new, it has, but instead of being able to Bluetooth my phone to it, it has an 8-track player. Does it play music? Yeah. Does it play music in the way that I am able to interface with? No. And so I think education's the same way. We have to interface with our students. We have to interface with learners
Mm.
in their context to the best of our ability. And so I'm always trying new things, right? I have my students now. We go through all the material. I lecture a lot. They get tons of information about plants through the semester. We cover a lot of ground. But then at the end of the semester, they have to put together a science communication project where they either have to develop a slide set that they could use like on an Instagram carousel to teach about a topic. They can do a podcast episode. They can make a like TikTok style video. They can do a vlog style video, but they have to take what they learned and figure out how to repackage it in a short form,
Mm.
short to medium format, sort of like deliverable,
Mm.
because
Yeah.
that's how they're learning. And so if we learn best by teaching, which has been my experience for sure, I want them to be able to teach the information in the format that they're receiving it. And that's been a lot of fun. And they've come up with such cool things.
Well, it's funny, even myself, I've noticed some of those limits because I post a number of things on Instagram, especially, and I'll be like, I'll record this kind of longish rambling video, and then I'll be like, Instagram says we can't recommend this as a reel because it's over 3 minutes. I'm like, ah, gosh darn it. And so I throw that out and start over again and be like, all right, I'm getting it down to 3 minutes this time or shorter. So there's the technology, even as informal educators, like just sharing something with somebody else, the technology does suggest the way you should go with it in some ways, and for good and ill. But as you say, we do adapt to it because that's the medium that we're trying to use.
Hmm. And so, again, I assign readings, we do long form lecture, we do all of it. And so we're doing some of the things the same way because there's reasons we've done it that way. But then in some cases, the reasons that we still do some things is because we've always done it that way, and that's not always right, right? We use the evidence about how people learn to improve our teaching. So we have this really cool center called the Teaching and Learning Professional Development Center, where we as instructors can go and take professional development courses and
Mm.
learn about teaching in different formats, learn about how AI can integrate into our classes in an ethical way, and gain new techniques based on evidence-based teaching practices. So I try to get on as many of those classes as I can and learn about teaching different demographics, different types of learners, making my lectures and my classes more accessible, all of that. And so, like, I think as educators, we should be lifelong learners as well. Or I think we're not doing our jobs.
That's right.
Agreed.
Yes, definitely. Let's see here. I want to grab a question or two here still left. David brought in a bunch of great questions here. A fun one here. Let's see. He says, if plants could talk, which species would be the sassiest?
Oh, man, that's a good question.
Oh, yeah.
Part of me thinks pansies, because they've been so maligned over the years.
Oh,
and
yeah,
they're tough as nails, right?
Yeah.
Like,
for sure, right?
and so I think they would have a lot to say to us about like how we've, taken their name in vain.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Let's see here. One more too. He was asking, oh yeah, because you do the Plant Prof on Instagram as well, and a lot of what you do there too is kind of busting plant myths and all of that, right? And he says, what's a common plant myth you'd love to bust right here on the show?
Oh man, there's so many of them. The ones that upset me the most are like anytime I see a banana pop up in all of these, they're like, you should be like rooting your seeds in a banana, or like they'll take a banana and punch holes in it and then set grapes in it, and then
Oh
they pull
gosh.
the like grape out and there's roots coming out of the bottom, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, what are we doing?
I know. I'll just have to say on the blend before let you continue here, but before you go further away from bananas, you did put a whole section of bananas in here too, as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Yeah, I was like, we have to have something in there that's like actual information about how we can use bananas. We have to do it. So I think so some of the things that I think are the most maybe harmful are some of the things about like all the weird fertilizers people try to come up with in some of these plant myths. Like if you dunk your banana peels in some oatmeal and water, you're gonna make in 20 minutes you'll have the perfect fertilizer. It's like, no, you're just gonna get
Right.
fruit flies. Like there are real things to making like they call it fermented plant juice, where you like put plant material in water and let it sit. You're essentially making humic acid, which is like a liquid compost. But like people do that, and then they get like real discouraged, and their house is full of fruit flies, and their plant dies anyway, and it just scares them away from gardening and having house plants. When it's like,
Yeah.
if you just like went one step further, and instead of like trying to get a 5-second like shock and awe kind of soundbite and video, because that's what sells right now, right? It just
Yeah.
is. And you spent an extra 30 seconds actually explaining how they can do it in a way that makes sense. Like we could be doing that good. Like we could be
Yeah.
doing a lot of good.
And it's weird that a lot of that
Yeah.
sort of crazy stuff, though, too, is the stuff that gets all of these crazy views and gets all this attention,
Yeah.
and then it's the real facts, and the people are trying to explain it, where you're like, well, why can't that get more attention than the actual misinformation?
Yeah, I'll spend like an hour making a video about like a cool garden thing, and like 9 people see it.
Yeah.
And then I see one of these 5-minute crafts videos and it has like 50 million views, and I'm just like, what is happening to us? Like, what is going on?
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Right on, right on. How about you, Mark? You got any last questions here for Vikram before we get finished up?
Well, this book seems to have been a big success. Is you got anything else? Like, did writing this stimulate you? Was it like the olives and be like, I never want to see another book again? Or was it,
No.
was it more like, I'm eager to, I got ideas for the next one. Things are coming up.
Yeah, no, it like I loved the process. I loved writing it. I loved doing the work for it. I've got 2 or 3 others sort of in the pipeline, or that I'm working through. Unfortunately, I've had to back burner some of that because I also took a textbook project, and I'm hoping that doesn't make me never want to like open a word
Okay,
process
yeah.
ever again. Because like That's one of those things that sounded like a really good idea.
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh, this is gonna be great. And then my co-author and I are like, several months deep into this, and we're just like, but
Uh,
I'll get through it. It's due in the spring, I think.
right.
Hopefully we'll be there. Hopefully we'll be done by then. And then I can get back to some of these more fun projects that I want to do. I gotta get this silly vegetable production textbook off my plate.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Good luck with that. That's a different genre.
It's so different. But we're trying to make it very practical. We're bringing in case studies from actual growers across the
Mm.
country. And my co-author and I, she's a professor at Oklahoma State. We both teach a very similar class about sustainable vegetable crops, and we were
Mm.
looking for a textbook, and we both were like, yeah, some of these are pretty good, but they're not what we want. Like they're not the thing that we're trying to do. And so that's kind of what brought this on. That
Yeah.
it's a very
Yeah.
niche kind of topic, and we want one that's appropriate for. The idea is that like a student in a class could pick it up, or someone who wanted to be a small to medium, even large vegetable grower could pick it up, and both get some benefit out of it.
Yeah. Cool. That sounds. I mean, the motivation sounds great. Maybe the execution is a little more painful.
But we'll get there. It'll be great when it's done, and I'll talk about how much I loved it. But just know now, I'm saying up front that like it's like banging my head against the wall right now.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Here, with all the different authors we've gotten to interview, the process itself maybe not be the most fun, but the outcome really is, right?
Mhm. Yep. At the end of the day, it will have been worth it, which I just keep telling myself like over and over.
Well, right on, Vikram. Again, too, just another great conversation with you here today, and talking about, again, this really great book for our back to school month, Plants to the Rescue by Dr. Vikram Baliga. If you don't have a copy of this book, or you have a kid that could really use one, definitely get down in our description below. Find a link where you can get a copy of this book. Again, highly recommended, and just really great. Again, like we said, too, I'll be going back to this again, and I can't wait till my granddaughter too is old enough to where I can sit with her and start flipping through some of these pages and teaching her about plants and science and all of that sort of stuff. But thanks again for coming and hanging out with us today for our book club. It's just really wonderful to have you.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
Real pleasure to be in talk with you, and a great book. Really enjoyed it as an educator. I'm going to recommend our school library get a copy, because
That's
I
awesome.
think it's a great Kid Connect book. And like I said, too, I learned a few things. So thank you.
Well, excellent.
All right. Well, we get moving on here today. You're welcome to stick around, but we got to get going here. I'm going to take one more quick break, and we'll be right back with Mark and I as we'll announce next month's gardening book selection. So, all right. Oh, let me get this here. Oh. Hey, gardeners. Thanks for tuning in to our show today. We'll be right back at it here in just a moment. I just wanted to take a second here to highlight our regular videos and features here on the Urban Gardener channel. Our weekly garden journals, and our incredible feature visits. So, all right, Mark.
Hey.
How about that? Another great, fun discussion with another awesome author and a really great book.
No, that was really good. I mean, to imagine the next generation being read the night bedtime stories from Vikram's book that's encouraging.
Yeah. Again, too, like I said, and was talking about earlier, is that, I like to imagine that young readers of this book will be the scientists of tomorrow, developing all of this great, cool plant science that'll change things as we move into, a really kind of unknown future when it comes to a lot of different issues we're dealing with.
And really, gardeners are scientists, because I mean, we may not be doing like gene splicing in our basements or anything like that. At least I'm not doing that. But you're
Yeah.
out there, you're observing, you're putting together patterns of cause and effect based on your observations and experience. And ultimately, like I think Vikram was giving a nod to this in terms of the context. We are in the context, right? When you're in the garden, you're
Hmm.
in the context. You are fully in the natural world. And whatever you do, you have an opportunity to observe very closely how plants and other elements of your garden are going to react. So it's
Hmm.
just an interesting way to think of oneself as, we are kind of like frontline scientists doing certain things, experiencing certain things, and observing over many, many years, hopefully, often in the same spot. That's one of our big advantages, I think, in terms of making a contribution ourselves and encouraging that mindset.
Yeah, yeah. So again, too, what a great conclusion to just a really fun idea for our back to school month and everything,
Yeah.
and getting to do, 2 books in a row here, 2 Sundays in a row here to talk all about, kids and gardening education, and the importance of teaching them gardening, and also again, too, like I mentioned earlier as well, to uh, uh, teach kids through books with pages, and physical books is just a really important thing to keep in mind.
Yep. So important. So important. I know for me, I came late to the internet age, obviously, but I'm never going to give up books. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And definitely again, once again, thanks to Vikram for being here, and get your copy of Plants to the Rescue right down in the description. But it's now time to talk about our next month's book selection, right?
Okay. So,
Next.
there was one thing I thought Vikram left out on
Oh,
his in his soil
no.
chapter, and I was sort of expecting it to see it, and it's actually the basis for our whole next book. So I'm glad we're
Oh,
getting to it, because should we give a flip here of the cover?
yeah, well, actually, I'm gonna do this. Well,
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
I guess we could do that. I would do that, but I'll do this first. Next month's book selection is
yeah.
going to be the Biochar
Woo!
Handbook by author Kelpie Wilson, and we'll be digging all into biochar. How about
Yeah,
that, huh?
got mine at
Mine already too.
yeah,
Yes.
already digging in. It's a great book. All right. Oh my God. I just flipped through it the other day. Like I like to do at the beginning of a book. I just kind of flip through the whole thing.
Hmm.
Already loving it. It's like, ooh, this is going to be good.
Lots of great information. Like I said too, I've been hearing a lot about, and I've talked with a few people who utilize biochar and all that, but it's just not something I've had the opportunity yet to really get into and to understand better and everything. So this is going to be a really great book to get me started on my road of implementing and utilizing biochar for my garden.
And I'm already a convert, because I implemented a lot of it up at the Noble Rock Rooftop Garden, and I saw it made a huge difference.
Yeah.
And I've made it with my students at school. We've made some biochar. It's been really fun. Um, yeah, even got the fire department called on me once. I was in just
Yeah. What was that? What happened there again?
Oh well, we had made this pit where we were making the biochar. And, one thing you'll learn is that you have to stop the reactions. Basically, you do not want the fire to burn to ash, because
Hmm.
you have to, you volatilize all the hydrocarbons and volatile elements, and then you form these carbon rings, which is basically all the stuff that's looks like wood that's left over from any campfire. Any of the kind of clinky stuff that still looks like wood. uh, so to stop it there, we have to pour on water and douse the fire. And when we did, it sent up these enormous plumes of white smoke. So some neighbor, did not know what was going on, just saw that and called the fire department on us. So I'm out there with my fourth, fifth, and sixth graders, dousing the fire, and all of a sudden there happened to be a
Oh,
fire truck in the neighborhood, so they came by real quick. All of a sudden they pull into the parking lot. My face goes completely red. I got to go over and explain what we're doing and how we got everything under control and it's all okay. The
oh
kids
my.
loved it. Oh my God, they were
A
watching
lot of
me.
action for them, right?
Yeah, like how is this all going to end now? So it's like, oh, Always a story. Always a
Oh, that's
story.
so great. That's
Yeah.
so great. So fun. So right on. Yeah. So again, next month's book club selection,
Yeah.
the biochar handbook. We'll have Kelpie Wilson with us third Sunday of the month. I believe that's October 19th for everybody. And yeah, look forward to that. That's gonna be really fun. It'll be really great again to catch up with you again. Mark, is really fun to have you this month, twice in a row, 2 weeks in a row. So
Well,
again,
yeah, I think you hit on a genius idea that we should repeat. September is the month of, the back to school and focusing especially on kids, because that was pure gold, man. We had some really great stuff, and it's just great to keep kids in mind.
yeah,
We talk about this a lot, and even today's in the garden video mentioned it. That next generation has to be brought up into the gardening world, has to be invited in, has to be thought of. So that can be a kind of a tip of the hat to the kids to say, yeah, this, we're looking at you guys too. We're looking at books that would be suitable for you guys as well.
yeah, yeah, definitely. So it's definitely going to have to be a regular occurrence for us each and every year to do this and be able to focus on again too. What was really kind of cool is just kind of getting a couple of different age groups involved as well too, as we were looking at our books and stuff. So that's why we thought it'd be great to do 2 for the month, so we can get in and talk about all of that, just for each age group, how important gardening is, how important, just teaching them, all of these great skills.
Yeah, yeah, just the fun. I mean, if I were a kid encountering this Plants to the Rescue, my mind would be on fire. I wish I'd seen this when I were a kid. I'm glad I got into it now, but man, this is exciting.
Yeah, definitely a great addition to the school library as well too over there, right?
Yep,
Yep,
yep.
yep. And again, too, that's also another great selection as well, or a suggestion as well, too, is that, we got our books here, give a call out to your local library, see if they got a copy. And if they don't got a copy, put in a request, get them to get some of these books. Vikram's book, Plants to the Rescue, I think should be in every library, kids section of every library across the country for sure. And, definitely. So make those suggestions, even books like next month's too, the biochar handbook, that sort of stuff, that's a good way to support our authors and those folks coming in to hang out with us and tell us all about these great books is to, call up your local library and get them to put that on their shelves.
Yeah, we can't forget our libraries. That's one of the last great public spaces we have available to everybody. So gotta keep using and promoting those.
Yeah, definitely. Well, right on, Mark. We're going to get this finished up today. But again, just another wonderful hangout with you, our author, great books, great talk. And I look forward to next month's selection as well, too.
Yeah, me too. I can't wait. Yeah, it was great. It was great today. Great being with you and Vikram, and looking forward to some biochar talk in our future.
All right, Mark. We'll see you here in just a few minutes. And
thanks everybody for being with us today. Really appreciate some great comments, great questions. Really enjoyed watching those scroll by, and everyone was sort of making fun of me being the fire truck.
Yes, it's so great. Yeah, I just couldn't imagine. I bet your kids have a lot of fun with you. That's for sure. Yeah, I know we do around here for sure. So definitely, thanks for being here, Mark. And we'll see you on the 19th next month. We'll talk some biochar.
See you then. Right. Bye, everybody. Have a great month.
Yeah. So, all right, everybody, there we go. Another edition of our monthly gardening book club on the shelf. So now thank you again to Dr. Vikram Baliga and his really awesome book, Plants to the Rescue. Get your copy right down below in the description. And before we go, let you know that next Saturday on the show, we'll have back with us our good friend, Greg Peterson. Farmer Greg's going to join back with us from the Urban Farm Podcast. And it'd be great to catch up with him again and see how his season's been growing along. And for our Are You Following Me segment, we'll have Diva in the Dirt with us too. Really looking forward to talking with her as well. And so definitely come and join with us next Saturday. And for our Sunday edition of the show next Sunday, we're going to have another fun roundtable. We'll have back with us Rish Gala and Ashley Thomas coming to talk about, is your garden happy? That's what we'll be asking and talking with them about for a really great, fun roundtable discussion this next Sunday on the Let's Get Growing show. So I'll definitely look forward to seeing all of you guys next Saturday and Sunday. And before we head out today, let's definitely click that like button, hit that thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell notification to be notified of all of our upcoming videos and all these great shows here on the Let's Get Growing show every Saturday and Sunday, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 2 p.m. Eastern, and 7 p.m. for all of you over in the UK. And if you're Rick over in Australia, you're getting up bright and early around 4 or 5 a.m. But thanks to all of you who are catching up with us anytime that you get a chance to check us out. And definitely follow all the links down below in the description there to find our guests and books and all of our other social media as well too. So again, thank you everybody for being here today. It was great to hang out with all of you. You brought some really awesome questions, and I look forward to seeing all of you next week on the show. I'll see all of you next Saturday. We'll see you then.
Power out.